Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Sessions. It's 21st of February, 2021. Well, thank you for joining. As you can see, we're outside, first time this year, out in the willow cairn in the tree labyrinth here. And this is our weekly time for exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting to this within your favorite sanctuary space, and expressing your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and problem solving too. Now, today's Sunday session is exploring dowsing. And we're going to go from water witching with hazel to doodle bugging with copper rods, and dowsing as divination employed to locate underground water. That's probably going to be quite a main topic through this session. We're also going to be looking at dowsing tools used to locate and understand the earth vibrations and at specific places. Now, other uses will probably be talked about by our guests. We've got some lovely guests today and through this session. And we're going to look at various dowsing tools from the Y-shaped twigs and swinging metal rods. Or you could even adapt a metal coat hanger. Here's a brief instruction for doing that. Or using what to me is a fairly sophisticated looking Lecher Antenna. Now, our lovely guests today, they include Jerry Kremin. I haven't got a picture of him, but he's of the Irish Society of Diviners. And there's a bunch of them there. I'm not sure if you're in there, Jerry. You perhaps let me know if you're in that lovely photograph of your lovely group there. And we've got Gary White, who's the author of The Divining Mind, and he'll be talking about dowsing for and within thin places. And we got the lovely Anne-Marie. No, that is not Anne-Marie. I don't know where she's disappeared. That's head of it. Sorry, Anne-Marie, I think your picture has disappeared. Anyway, she's going to be introducing the fascinating Lecher Antenna and some of her adventures with it. And we've got Dana Corby. Oh, here's Anne-Marie. I've got a lovely picture of Anne-Marie here. Let's use that one. Now, you can that even introduces you to a little bit of what Anne-Marie does. And we've got Dana Corby. And Dana Corby, she'll be sharing some of her amazing discoveries from dowsing maps, doing dowsing over maps. And at the end, some surprises there. And at the end of this, we'll have a panel session. So do join in with your questions. It's a question and answering session, and that will be with the guests. So before much further ado, let's see who we've got joining us today. Thank you for those who have joined. Let's see who's on. There's a few of you on. Yes, we've got, oh, there we go. And there's Donna Johnson, a regular, Sandra. Hello, Sandra Elizabeth Medium. And it's lovely to have both of you. I just want to put something in here. Oh, Claire's on, I see. Hello, Claire. She's not far away from here. She's doing some gardening here. So that's great. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Now, these Carrowcrory Sessions and the Carrowcrory Labyrinth Gardens, they're brought to you due to largely our Patreon subscribers putting this on. You can appreciate it does actually have a few things that we have to pay for in subscriptions watching live today. So thank you. Some of you watching now are supporters, but to give a wee plug of that, there's where you go to subscribe. And I wouldn't be here this afternoon if it wasn't for your help. So thank you very much for that. So I'll get on with the show here. Where and when did this dowsing larks begin? Now, that was a picture I showed you earlier. The Tassili Caves of North Africa, Algeria, I think. And there's something to go by. And there's a little lad there with a Y-shaped stick, and that's about 8,000 years old. And then there's also the ancient art of dowsing in the Egyptian pharaohs' temples. There's artwork there, and in ancient Chinese art, and that's something that was brought in from China as well. So a lot of today's dowsing here in Ireland, though, and it seems to be the same in the UK, seems to have a kind of origin. The techniques seem to have a European origin, German origin, and it's amazing that dowsing has come from a region that actually burned the most witches during the medieval times, yet it brought to us the dowsing. And the German dowsing trend during the 16th century was motivated by a means to find metals. It wasn't so much a water thing, it was the metals that was the big deal then. And this kept going, even though Martin Luther was proclaiming that dowsing was the devil's occultism, much like a Ouija board, and using them. And then in the 17th century, the Jesuits, they claimed that dowsing was the work of the devil. The devil was in the hand of the dowsers, and that's what moved their rods. Yet by the mid-17th century, those Jesuit priests were actually employing dowsers to track down heretics. So it's amazing how things change. I think this is a bit of a heretic hunt here. It's an old German picture anyway. So back to the 16th century. Mining companies around Europe became impressed with this German dowsing craft. So they employed German dowsers to come to their mines. And this was in the England, this was summoned by Elizabeth I. And this was especially so down in Devon, Cornwall, and Wales. And their Y-shaped wooden rod was known as, let's get the right thing going up here. It was known as a Schlag Ruth. And I think I've got, that's a sort of metaphysical version of that. I think I've got some spelling, because I'm going to go through some stuff here with you of how we got some of these words, which is fantastic. There we go. This is what I'll bring up for you. And the Cornish language at the time, and it's barely spoken now, translated this out to be dushan, meaning strike and fall. And that's why I got that picture up, as a sort of a strike and fall imagery. And in the Mendips, there was an English translation of the Latin, let's move that way. There was an English translation of Latin, Virgula Divinatoria, and that got shortened to divina, meaning strike a light. And there's a nice drawing from that time. And this is also known, well, there's another divina, Virgula Divina, and it applies to this as well, bottle opener. So there you go, takes the same word. Now, the Somerset English translation of this was a dewsing rod, and that later became dowsing. And the rod user became known as a diviner, D-I-V-I-N-A, and that got diviner. So there's a bit of the word history. I like throwing that in, as you know, on these Sunday sessions, where do these names come from. And I hope you got all that as well. And there are some other names too. I've got a sort of a nice graphic here that lists them. There's a few other names to contemplate over. Now, the favored woods in Europe for a Y-stick for dowsing are hazel. That's the most popular. And Jerry's has got a lovely example he's going to be showing you shortly. And willow also used. And there's some people with, there you go. There's like, they've got some hazels, that couple there. And in the USA, I believe, witch hazel and peach. And this man apparently got peach wood. And they're perhaps the most favored in the USA. Our guest might say something about that. But for use, these Y-shaped rods cut into 12, 16 inches in length. There's a nice collection there that someone's cut up. And using those, basically, for those of you who are not dowsing yet, hold the wood horizontally, or that, like this lad raised up a bit. This one, he's raised it up a bit, but held very loosely. And then as you approach water, or whatever it is that your intent for dowsing is, there'll be a feeling of a pull down. I love this old picture. There you go. Even Rees Mogg is in there, second from the left for people from the UK. You might get a bit of a laugh from that one. And at that point, the rod must be grasped, or it may be dropped when it comes down. Suddenly, boom, it goes down. So you got to grasp it. And our first guest is going to be Jerry is going to demonstrate that. To achieve this sensory action, though, it needs a personal state of concentration. Meditation, and of course, people are familiar with mindfulness. You've got to be in that state. Well, I certainly do. I couldn't give you a dowsing demonstration just now because I'm watching all these screens and buttons. Last thing I can do is hold a rod straight. So forgive me for that. But trying to mentally work out what will happen with the rods, if you just hold them and you try and will them to work, and any mistrust in using the rods, if you're being a skeptic, what'll happen? Nothing will happen. So the dowsing practice is called a pseudoscience by scientists. And that means that science hasn't been able to identify how and why dowsing works. But science, to me, it can feed up many reasonings for skeptics as science does that in many situations, doesn't it? Take homeopathy, for instance. That's a pseudoscience, and it's mocked by science. Yet many people have resolved and recovered from illness using homeopathic remedies. And I think yoga is similar too. Now, I've always believed that interpretations in this world, some people seem to think they've got to have scientific foundations. And the foundations of what we interpret is either science or perhaps there's art. Now, science coming from conclusions from the use of human-created calibrated instruments. Remember, they use human-created calibrated instruments and methods as well. And art comes from our inspirations, intuitions, instincts, reactions, and our consciousness. Yeah, the thing that I get amused by is that the tools of calibration and science that we trust in were actually invented and creating from inspirations, intuitions, instincts, reactions, and our consciousness. And Einstein had something to say about that. I'll give you a minute to see that. Find that it's lovely he put that up because he was a visionary, wasn't he? Now, I've asked the guests today to focus on dowsing for water because the water folklore themes have been our focus during this month of February, especially during Imbolc with those lovely guests that we had. But the German trend of the 16th century, as I've explained, was the use of dowsing to locate minerals. But there's no recorded mention of searching for water until about 1670. And there was an abbess, St. Teresa of Avila in Spain, and Gary's probably quite familiar with this one. I've got a Teresa somewhere. Let's see if I can find her. Is that her? Yeah, there she is. And she wanted to establish a convent, but she couldn't locate the water to serve it. So luckily, she hadn't heard of the preaching of dowsers being devil workers from Germany. So she invited a German dowser to find water for a convent. And he did. He found lots of water, apparently. And St. Teresa was thrilled. She regarded this dowser as a miracle worker rather than an occultist. But this seems to be the only recorded dowsing for water that I know of at that time. Anyway, I think let's see. There's more of you aboard now. Oh, boy. You've really tuned in now. There's lots of you. Let's see what you've got to say, because we're nearly on to our first guest. We've got Sharon May Nicol. Hello there. Mary, lovely that you've joined us again. Thank you. Michael, we're getting a lot of some YouTubers today, which is fantastic. Happy to be you from Belgium. Great, because we've got Anne-Marie from Belgium too, one of our guests. And Anne Garrity Smith, who's got that lovely visitor centre in Ardar, in Longford. Lovely to have you with us, Anne. Thank you very much. Joey Sparks is here. I loved the trip around Ireland a few years ago. David, hello. And we've also, David, hello there. Watching from Ireland somewhere. And we got a neighbour here, Didier. Hello there, Didier. Fantastic. And hope all's well with you over the fields. And then we got Candice Batten, Rebecca Miller. Oh, there's quite a bunch of you here. Oh, that's lovely. Thanks very much. And I assume that's growing. And those of you who've missed the beginning, you can watch the archive to see my ramblings on so far, which has been a bit of an introduction. Now, let's get on to our first guest, Jerry Kremlin of the Irish Water Diviners. He's our first guest, and he's one of the coordinators of the Irish Society of Diviners. This is time for me to put my sort of earplugs in so I can actually hear Jerry. And one of our first fabulous guests. And he's about to serve us a perfect startup for this lineup today. I had a lovely chat with Jerry last Friday, and he's a very fascinating man and a natural at dowsing. And he's definitely a voice of the society here. So here is Jerry. Let's get the right person. There he is. And he's going to introduce Irish Diviners and serve you a wee chat about dowsing. How you doing there, Jerry?
Hi, no,
fantastic.
Okay.
You'll be great as you are. We'll take you as you are. That's fantastic.
Okay,
and as I say, it's lovely. If you could let us know the first question, and you were showing the rods earlier, but a little bit about the Irish Diviners and what you do would be fantastic.
Yeah, we're a mixed match of people. We usually would have had a meeting on the second Saturday of the second month. The first Saturday of the every starting in January and every second month after that. And we used to have it inside in Sing Street, but we haven't had that since last January. So we do, we have very little contact with people except phone calls and that, and we have we set up a bit of streaming, but as far as we used to do a lot of field work, and we would have had a few meetings, and like as well as water, we would look for a lot of stone circles, and a bit of a day out on them, and just going to places like Tara and even in Slane, Hill of Slane. And it was interesting for, the way you go into just a green field, and we can just form a circle. We would have markers. I think I have some of them there. We'd get little just ordinary little bits of bamboo. We'll just put them down as you go along, and you end up forming a couple of circles. A lot of these are four. There'd be four ring circles, and they match up. And there's one goes on to the other. And normally you would find that even with in Slane, that they form a pattern of where the building was. They did have something to do with the energies, and they were. I would think they were probably cleansers of the earth. When the first people came here, and they got rid of a lot of the negativity that was about. But of course, like they're long forgotten about, and now they're just used as farmland. And I suppose for years and years we were unaware of them, and like once we became less nomadic, I suppose, land became a possession, and it was fought for. So it was no longer something that we shared. Life has completely changed since then. And even when we went to new lands, I suppose it was a bit similar, but it's just I suppose it was human greed that we just seem to want possessions, even though all possessions are only very temporary, but for that reason, we just seem to want them. We don't trust our fellow human being to share anything with them, and I suppose that is the history, and I suppose it's just a survival of the strongest, and that goes right down to the lowest form of people. Then that if we're a little stronger than the person below us, we're going to use that influence, and I mean, it's probably something to do maybe with what we're going through at the moment. Maybe we
Yeah.
probably
Jerry,
have
you showed me
Yeah.
your wonderful hazel rod. That was absolutely spectacular. Can you give us a bit of a
Yeah,
chat around that?
I give it
That was
that. There's
brilliant. Let's see
something
if we can get in the screen.
here. The spring.
There we go.
A spring rod, hazel rod. I think this looks like a black currant tree, but anyway, they all work. It is to do with the belief. It is to do with the belief. But generally, if you could, you see it there with you put your hands facing up, the palm of your hands facing up, and you put the thumb on each side of it, and you hold it as as horizontal as you can. And whatever you're looking for, sometimes it come up, sometimes it'll go down, but that you will get a reaction once you come across what you're looking for, and then you pass that point and it's gone again, come back and it's gone. You'll get that. It triggers something in the person that's holding it, and most people can do it. I'd say very few people cannot do it, but it's just. Some people have a belief that they cannot do it, and then they can't. Then that's you're bringing negativity into it. But generally,
you showed your metal ones as well, which is fabulous.
Yeah, that's that. Well, there is the these ones here. They're made out of a brazing rod. They're round and they are brass, and it's the same thing. You hold them kind of slightly, hold them in the hand, and you come across something, and they'll join, in the middle. Some people like to put a sleeve on them. I don't, but some people put a bit of wood, drill a bit of wood, or the likes of just a biro, stick it into them. I personally I don't, but some people prefer it that way. And then of course you have the pendulum, which will do the same thing. And again, like normally, you have a neutral position like that, and clockwise for yes and anti-clockwise for no. That can change as well, with people. Some people have a reverse reaction to it, but one way or the other, when you come across what you're looking for, you will get a reaction. And once you pass that reaction goes again, you come back and you'll get that reaction. And like this is very good for map dowsing. That if you're looking for water, for instance, if you get a map of the area you want, you go over it with the pendulum, and you can maybe mark it in 4 places, put a cross through it, and do each section, and you'll get a general idea where the water is. And once you go to that site, then you will spend less time walking around aimlessly. So it just nobody knows how it works. It works.
No. What would you say has been the most exciting discovery by the society when you've gone on field trips?
I suppose for a lot of people, you see, a lot of people, I suppose now are very urban, and that they haven't gone out much, to the likes of where forts are and that. And I think it was just the likes of going up to Slane and going inside the wall in Slane and getting those energies. And there were people there, it was fascinating for them. That you just go in, and I have a bag of markers, and you go in and you go with the rods, and then, maybe 3 or 4 people go around in a circle, just stick them down, and just to see that circle forming. And you go in another bit, and there's another circle, you'll see that forming, and you'll go into the point of that, and you look around, you'll see these circles with a centerpiece. You move up further, it's just a whole series of these circles, 4-ring circles in a lot of cases, and it's just it has a pattern. It will have an east-west pattern. Some of these patterns will be for the winter solstice, summer solstice. There's the winter solstice is that the shortest day of the year will be the rising sun, and the direct opposite of that will be the setting sun, of course, on the longest day of the year. So you'll have those lines, you know, that form, and a lot of these sites are aligned to these places. You know, there were energy spots, and they were also meeting places, and you know, they were a lot of times you would have a full affair beside the, you know, the cooking pot where people gathered up whatever deer or whatever, and they just filled the pond with the heat of the stones, and they cooked the meat. They put their meat into straw, and they'd cook the meat in the pond with the stones. And you know, people have done it in modern times, and that's surprisingly fast how the meat will cook even with the stones.
We cover one of the Sunday sessions for the Yule, for the winter solstice. We go into that one quite a bit. Anyway, it's been a fantastic introduction, and I hope people will be able to get out on the field trips and be in groups again. We all wish to join our hobbies rather than just share this online. But thanks very much for that introduction, Jerry. That was fabulous. And an insight that Ireland is included in this. So thank you very much, and all the best to you, Jerry. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry there. Thanks very much. Irish diviners. Now, there's a little bit. That's an order. That's my pendulum. It's made with order. And I got a little bit of quartz on the end. But as I say, I can't do much. And Jerry gave a lovely introduction for that. And I'm showing that because I'm going to move on with pendulums a bit now, but I'm not going to say much about them because of time limitations. But I was introduced to pendulums by my family, and they use them often when they notice my very young fascination with Ordnance Survey maps. And I learned to use a compass very young, and I was pointing out and talking about stone circles, holy wells, tumuli, standing stones, hill forts and cairns. And I was just so excited as a wee nipper, 6, 7 years old, seeing all this stuff from an Ordnance Survey map. It absolutely is fascinating. I'm looking up because I'm just hoping we're not getting drizzle. I hope it's just passing. Anyway, I was so encouraged to use a pendulum on maps. I got a picture, I think, of someone using a pendulum on a map. There we go, just to show what we're talking about. Pendulum on a map. And it was to see how these sites linked up. I thought it was fascinating. And then I'd take a pendulum with me when I visited these sites that I saw on the map. And at that time, I even moved on to, because it was a family thing, no, that's the wrong picture. And I was drawing up astrology charts at a young age too. And I would swing a pendulum over that. And I love this old picture of the idea. That's obviously not an astrology chart, but there's some astrology sculpture with the image of a pendulum. So it was, to me, as a young child, anything that was charting, I was into it. Well, that's all I'm going to say about pendulums today. I wish to introduce our next guest, who is a lover, who's got a great pendulum story. So I'll get this set up now, and hoping this drizzle will go away. We've got a bit of a drizzle moment at the moment, but I think it's just for a few seconds. Anyway, before I do that, I'm going to check the comments, and just excuse me while I wipe water that's lashing over the computer desk here. Not doing the computer much good, is it? But I think it's gone away now. I don't think we're very serious with that. This is the trick of being outdoors, of course. But let's see what you're saying at the moment. There's a few people joined on. Sun's back out. Great. Big Bear's here. Yay. He's become a regular. Thanks again for joining us there. Big Bear in Ireland on the YouTube here. And Mark Fish found Jerry fascinating there. Very good. Macedonia, Mirko, very lovely to have you here. And Claire Roach is thanking Jerry here. And lovely to see you, Jerry, Sherry, a regular. Lovely that you can join us as well. And then we've got a Lindy from New York. Thank you for coming on board. Hello from everyone, as I say. If you've missed the beginning, you can actually, this is going to be archived, and you're actually going to be able to see it. As soon as this is finished, you can watch the archive as well. But Dana Corby, now she intrigues me, and she introduced me to some of her dowsing work, and she dowses with maps. And I think she's watching. I haven't seen her say hello yet. But this included crime solving through giving the location of a serious crime perp. And she'd get to a map, and she'd have the pendulum. She'd get a location, hand it to the police, and they go off and arrest the person. Now, Dana couldn't be live with us today. She lives in Tacoma, Washington State. But she sent me this video to share with you all. And so, without further ado, this is Dana Corby's story. I trust you will.
Hello, John. Hello, friends. My name is Dana Corby. I live on an island in Puget Sound, which is that notch you see in...
Again, get the background. I'm not getting a response here. Sorry, what's happening? I've got a little bit of a hiccup with the service here. Give me a few seconds. I think it might be a StreamYard issue. I will get onto this in a second. Let's get this going, and then we'll get her video going. Apologies for hiccup there. Let's see if I can get this going.
Hello, John. Hello, friends. My name is Dana Corby. I live on an island in Puget Sound, which is that notch you see in the upper left-hand corner of the map of the United States. John asked me to tell more fully the story that I mentioned on his post the other day about an interesting experience that I had with map dowsing. It was 35 years ago, something like that. And at the time I was living in Boise, Idaho, and had a women's Wicca study group going. And one of the girls in our group was going to college days and working as a bartender at night to, work her way through college. Well, one night she left work about 2 a.m. as usual, and cut through the park as usual because it made her trip home about 6 blocks shorter on foot. And she realized she was being followed. So she walked faster and managed to get home. And shortly after she did, the man broke into the house, started beating her and her roommates up, and attempted to rape one of the girls against the wall. Excuse me. And one of them managed to make it out the back door to the next door neighbors and call the police. Well, this was Boise, Idaho, 30 plus years ago. And the Boise police were dominated by 2 very conservative religious groups, the Mormons and the Nazarenes. And what the cops told my friend was that if she had been home like she ought to be, this wouldn't have happened. No attempt to take information, nothing. So the next time we got together in our women's group, we decided to try map dowsing and see if we could find the man. Got out a map of Boise, got out a pendulum. This one, in fact, is my favorite crystal. And all I have to do is take it off my neck and voila, pendulum. So anyway, we dowsed on the map and got a hit. Wow. Almost immediately. So one of the girls who had plenty of spare time in the daytime started staking out the address that we got via our map dowsing, and a couple days later, here comes the man out of the house, gets in a car, and drives away. So she takes the address and the license number to the police and says, "This is your guy, now arrest him." And they did. Talk about flabbergasted. That was my first real experience with map dowsing, and my husband and I have both kept doing it ever since. I also do other kinds of divination as well. For instance, about 1972 or thereabouts, I was taught a system of runestone divination. It isn't like Futhark. It's a different system entirely. And not long ago, I put out the book. It's on Amazon. So if you're interested, there it is. I've also spent a summer bit as a phone psychic, which was exceedingly interesting. Talk about learning a lot about human psychology. So anyway, that's basically the story, and it led to lots of years of interesting divination, mostly over maps and other paper things. I don't do much walking the land type divination, or dowsing or anything like that. I use my dear crystal pendulum a lot, but not long ago, I was given this adorable little brass pendulum. It looks big, but let me move it back next to my face so that you can see the actual size. It's teeny, but it's very heavy, and it does a good job. You'll notice that both of my pendulums are on chains rather than strings. I have this theory. Don't we all have theories? I have this theory that the twist in a string can influence the swing of a pendulum. So I use chains instead because they can be trued. There is no twist in that at all. It just hangs there and does its thing. Anyway, that's the rest of the story, and I thank you all for hearing it, and am delighted to meet you all. If you want to contact me in any way, again, I'm Dana Corby. I'm on Facebook under that name. That's DANACORBY. Thank you so much, and blessed be.
Well, thanks very much to Dana there. So it's a video, and I think the one lesson with that is, and I do ask, is that we still do videos in landscape. We haven't gone on to TikTok yet, so submission of videos, you can still send them to them in landscape. Anyway, that was different. But despite dowsing being an unproven pseudoscience, I believe that every water board in the UK employs a dowser, and I believe the water network now is a link up of individual county water boards, which is unlike Ireland, which has recently changed to just one centralized water board. And I've got some picture up for you for some Irish. Yes, this is the Irish water board. Or there we go. Anyway. Though there's some local water cooperatives in Ireland, and we actually belong to one here in Carrowcrory, and I'm so glad that we do. But maybe recently in the UK, the county boards have been centralised into, I think, not for one for each county, but into a dozen boards. And help me out to confirm this, any of you from the UK. Anyway, the main point is, it seems that all of the UK water boards employ, or most of them employ, dowsers to find underwater pipes, one of the most difficult tasks of a water board. But there's been consumer complaints. The UK water boards have recently been quick to point out that they do not actually pay money out to employ dowsers, but established dowsers, they actually like to take up engineering jobs within the water boards. So they volunteer their services from them. So that's the way they turn that around. So this information was shared by Waterfords after disgruntled paying consumers complained that their bills included some costs to pay for these practitioners of a discredited medieval craft of dowsing. So there we go. There's an imagery of that discredited medieval craft of dowsing who are actually volunteers. But even so, dowsers seem to be called upon by most countries of the world during drought times. And during drought, people, especially farmers, they need water to be found. And it seems the closest science has aligned with some dowsers is that the dowsing tools amplify subtle movements in their hands, known as idiomotor responses. Now, science thinking from at least 3 respected science writers, I haven't got their names at the moment, but they were between about 1850 and 1955 or 60, is that subtle hand twitches is a reaction from our subconscious responses. And I believe this has raised dowsing from being a study of the paranormal into an actual mild acceptance of our mental sensitivity to physical reactions. Now, the tools most used by dowsers, as I've shown, are the metal rods. And then we've got another picture of metal rods. And again, I'm not going to elaborate on those metal rods because Jerry demonstrated the pair to us. And some dowsers, they adapt using wire coat hangers. There you go. That shows you how to snip a wire coat hanger. I had another picture to make the same if you want to have a go at that. But our next guest is going to demonstrate a sophisticated development away from the wife rods and away from the swinging metal rods. There you go. There's what we're leading up to. And anyway, I'll leave you anticipating that while I see what's the latest that you're saying here. Claire is complimenting Dana. Thank you very much for that, Claire. So that's great. And well, I think it's time to bring on Anne-Marie. I didn't have a picture for her earlier, I don't think. So there you go. There's a nice little meme from her. And Dame Anne-Marie Delmont, she explores and teaches bioenergetics and learns how to measure and balance bioenergies, as you showed there, through meridians, dragon lines, chakras, and other living flow paths. And she's come to develop this craft from a foundation of sound scientific background. And Anne-Marie is quite a scientist. And she uses a craft with a Lecher Antenna as a means of tracking resonance with crystals, color, homeopathy, Bach flowers, essential oils, just to name a few things. And out in the field, she goes off to ancient sites, into woodlands, into gardens, and with buildings too. And she's an author of some books about her craft. Here's one of her books there. She might say a bit about that. And she's also a Lecher Antenna course facilitator. So without further ado, we're going to, here's Anne-Marie. And Anne-Marie has got loads of stories. There's enough content to share with a full Sunday session and more. But this afternoon, Anne-Marie is going to be with us for an introduction and presentation of the Lecher Antenna and how she uses it, and a bit about her craft today. So without ado, there's, I'll put the earphones in again, and let's see, we'll get her on first, and then I'll say hello. And there you go, come on, there you go. And there's Anne-Marie there, and I'll get the little thingies on. You're looking great there anyway. Let's get the sound. And there we go. Hello, Anne-Marie.
Good afternoon, John.
Oh, you're loud and clear. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant that you've joined us, and patience of waiting while we're going through the other guests and my rambles. Fantastic. So I suppose without further ado, a lot of people won't know, they know about dowsing rods and wire rods, but tell us a bit about the Lecher Antenna.
So I actually prepared a talk for today. So good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us here. My name is Anne-Marie Delmot, as you can read on the screen there, and I will be giving you a short presentation of a Lecher antenna. So this is a Lecher antenna, but I have to admit that I made some cards from which I will read some excerpts, because I don't want to lose my thread and start to digress, which I can very easily do. So I'm going to really stick to the cards so I can be in the time frame that you have given me. So this presentation will take about 15 minutes and is structured as follows. First of all, I will tell something about myself and why I got to use a Lecher antenna, which is a sort of dowsing scientific instrument. Then I will tell you about what a Lecher antenna can be used for, and then about its origin, what it looks like and how it works. And I would like to end this presentation with a very short poem about dowsing I found recently. So for starters, something about myself. My name is Anne-Marie, as was said earlier, and I'm from Belgium. And as you said as well, I am a scientist. I studied clinical chemistry. But ever since I was born, I have always been sensitive to all kinds of energies, and I wanted to objectify what I was sensing. So I was feeling all these different kind of feelings, but I couldn't put a name on it or anything. And as a scientist, I love to measure and quantify things. So I looked for a scientific measuring device that can measure the energies I was sensing and be able to name them and know their wavelengths or frequencies. So I found this in the Lecher antenna. The first time I ever saw a Lecher antenna was when I consulted a medical doctor in Belgium when I was 20 years of age. I won't tell you how long ago that was, but I was only able to find one I could purchase myself much later, which was in 2008 to be precise. Now, what can a Lecher antenna be used for? The Lecher antenna can be used to measure water, of course, but it can also be used to measure ley lines and energies at ancient megalithic sites. You're already talking about stone circles, tumuli, dolmen. So all of those are megalithic sites, but also holy wells, the energies at holy wells, labyrinths, like your labyrinth, John, which I measured a few years ago and which is mentioned in one of my books, cathedrals, and so on. Now, the Lecher antenna can be used for geobiology. Now, what is geobiology? Geobiology is the study of the Earth's influence at a precise location on everything that lives, be it human, animal, or plants. So the Lecher antenna can be used to measure all types of negative energies that emanate from the Earth. Now, why would you want to measure those negative energies in your home or garden or field or terrain, and so on? Now, a good example to illustrate this is the case of my stepdad. My stepdad had a prostate operation and he just wasn't recuperating from it. So it had been 6 weeks and I was wondering whether his hospital bed was on negative energies. I asked his permission to do a reading of his bed, and as it seemed, indeed, the very spot he was operated on was on a crossing of negative energies of the Earth. That was why he wasn't recuperating from that operation. So I just moved his bed a little bit, and that was enough for his body not to be on those energies anymore. Now, I won't go any deeper into which energies it was, but they were not good for his revalidation or for anybody's health for that matter. So to make sure that that bed wasn't moved back to its original position, I told the staff at the hospital about this, and they were surprisingly very understanding and even interested. I think they might have made a connection to that room and people not getting better, but they didn't say anything about it. But I had like this clue, why were they so interested in me saying this? So he made a speedy recovery after I moved his bed. Now, the Lecher antenna can also be used to evaluate corrections that you can do of these negative energies of the earth. So in a case where you're not able to move the bed, you would be able to make certain corrections by using very low budget or even free materials. Now, I have conducted elaborate research at ancient megalithic sites in the west of Ireland, and also at the Lochrook Cairns and at Croggan Mount in Ireland. And then also in France, in Carnac, where you have these famous megalithic stone rows, and other sites in Brittany in France as well, where there is a multitude as well of well-preserved megalithic sites. Now, my research in Ireland and in France, I had to verify certain things I had discovered in Ireland, but as France has, I'm not reading off my cards anymore, I'm starting to digress. I'm just going to go back to my cards. Now, that elaborate research in Ireland and France led me to a very important discovery about how the ancients worked with the energies of the land and different configurations of stones. So like you see quadrilateral, rectangular structures, stone circles, dolmen, cairns, all these different configurations of stones give different energies and work differently with the energies of the land. And their purpose is to clear the land of these negative earth energies for better crops, better yields, better livestock, and well-being. So I write about my research and gradual discovery of all of this in several of my books. And I also teach this long forgotten knowledge to others, to my students. Now, another application of the Lecher antenna is bioenergetics. And by bioenergetics, I mean measuring a person, measuring their bioenergies, but also balancing them. And also bioresonance, so selecting remedies for a person. And these remedies can be, as you maybe already mentioned a few there, John, crystals, color filters, homeopathics, Bach remedies, Schussler salts, and many more. Now, I would like to elaborate very shortly on bioenergetics by means of a case, which is the one of my mom. My mom had only 1 to 2 days more to live. And as she had dementia, I asked my stepdad whether I could try something with the Lecher antenna, to which he agreed. So I actually measured that her connection to the earth was very weak, which meant that, also this is very emotional for me, which meant that she was leaving us soon. So I sent her that earth energy overnight and also energy to strengthen her central nervous system for her dementia. And it was incredible. The next day, she was already more lucid. And 2 days later, she was sitting with the other residents in the recreation room of the nursing home. And she lived another 3 years after this. This, for me, this was really a real eye-opener, because I mainly got the Lecher antenna to sense energies at sites and places. But then I wanted to learn more about bioenergetics as well. Now, the origin, how does the Lecher antenna look like and how does it work? So its origin is the principle of the Lecher antenna was developed by the Austrian physicist Ernst Lecher in 1889. He was a colleague of Einstein, hence the name Lecher antenna, because Ernst Lecher was the first person to discover. I won't go into this because it would take us way too far. Now, the Lecher wires were then further adapted by physicist Reinhard Schneider, to be able to be used as a measuring device of energies of very low intensity. Now, what is a Lecher antenna? So this is a Lecher antenna. Let's see whether I can hold it. Yeah. It is a scientific instrument that can measure, but it can also send energy. So it has these two Lecher wires, and then it has the arms, the two arms to hold the instrument. It has a base block. It has a ruler in centimeters. So the white with the graduations is a ruler. And then it has this movable cursor, which determines what energy you want to look for or send. So, for example, a setting of 7.8 is to look for running water, 135 to look for stagnant water, and so on. Now, how does it work? And just put it on beneficial energy here. How does it work? It works by means of resonance. So if there is a resonance between what is looked for and what it is set to, then these physical forces will come into place in the antenna itself, which makes it slightly tremble and will make it want to dip. So these are actually real scientific forces. Now I can do a very short demonstration. I have an orgonite here. I don't know whether you know about these little devices. They emanate orgone energy. So I'm just going to demonstrate. You can't see it now on screen, but you will see the antenna. So I have to look for, I have a setting for orgone. So if I now come in to my orgonite, which is just beneath the antenna there, you see that it dips. So the orgonite is actually emanating a wall of orgone energy. And when the antenna comes into that wall of energy, it resonates. And if you need to learn a little bit how to handle how to hold the Lecher antenna correctly. But if you come in that wall of energy, the antenna just will dip, because it feels these forces that come into the antenna, which make it, that's the way it works anyway. Now, as to resonance, another example of resonance is somebody singing a high note, and somewhere else, somebody holding a crystal glass, and the glass shattering. So that's resonance. The same here with the Lecher antenna. Now, the Lecher antenna can also be used to look for copper, gold, silver, diamonds. If you have a setting, you can look for it. And it also can be used to test the quality of food. Now, anyone can learn this because it is a scientific instrument, and you have these physical forces making the antenna dip. So I am offering also several online courses for bioenergetics, for geobiology, but I also made a mini course, which is only a 1-hour video on demand course with all these short exercises you can do. And going by the feedback of my students who have done the mini course, it is very much appreciated, because all of them are able to use and handle the antenna correctly. Now, as to my courses, besides the mini course, I have short courses for bioenergetics and geobiology, but I also have like a flagship course, bioenergetics, and I also have a flagship course, geobiology. And the bioenergetics goes even that far that you can take a practitioner certification module. So if you want to become a Lecher antenna bioenergetics practitioner, that is perfectly possible with my online courses. Everything can be done online. So you don't even have to go to an exam center. Everything is done online. Now, having a Lecher antenna and using it only requires a small investment of your time and resources, but you get so much for it in return. I recently had somebody from the States putting up a review saying, I have saved hundreds of hours. And I can't even imagine how much money just by learning the skill and be able to work on my health and well-being. So I would say, imagine feeling fantastic because you can balance your bioenergies and live in a healthy home of a high vibration in which you can thrive because you have learned also how to use this instrument for geobiology, how you can alter your house to a healthy house and with high vibration, and finding diamonds. So I would say it's only a very small investment of your time and resources. Now, maybe just something about my books. So I have 5 books. First of all, I have a practical guide, which is a good complement for the mini course. So that's a basic training in geobiology and bioenergy. And then I have this book, which has, John has already shown the cover of. This is where John's labyrinths are mentioned in, yes, and much, much more. And then I have this book, which is Unveiling Ancient Knowledge at the Lecher Cairns, a journey into the discoveries of the subtle energies. Now, this book has recognition from the Irish Heritage Council and the Irish authorities as of cultural merit and original. Now, this is a big thing, I would say, because it's actually acknowledging that these energies of the land and at these sites are real. So, and then I have 2 more books, which is about my research of the sites in France. So it's Signpost to the Holy Grail. I'm very big on long titles, so I won't pronounce them to you here. And The Secrets of the Energies at the Megaliths in Carnac and Brittany. So these 2 books are major books about my research and discoveries. And this is The Signpost to the Holy Grail is the first book, and this is its sequel. So, and then I think, yeah, all my books are available from all Amazon sites and from specialized bookshops like Kenny's in Galway, Lochru Megalithic Centre, Krogan Megalithic Centre, Lieber in Sligo, and so on. But you can find, for each book, I have a page on my website, and where you can actually get the book from. Now, I think John maybe has put up a link to my...
I've been putting them up, yeah. And, well, if you can put them in the comments as well, that would be great. And we're going to have hopefully a panel time. But that was fantastic, Anne-Marie. And as usual, we're running into overtime. That's been partially my fault. But that was beautiful, Anne-Marie. That really compacted, because there is a lot of content that you can share. So thank you so much for that. You said you had a wee poem, though, am I right?
Yes.
Because I met Anne-Marie through Part of the Woods through the poetry. So it'd be lovely to finish off with that poem.
Yes. So maybe just finish that saying that you can order free flyers from my web shop. So there's a flyer which I made especially for the talk today, which was meant as an article for a magazine, but which hasn't been published yet because of COVID. So I made a flyer out of it. So if you want, you can download it for free from my web shop. And also 2 flyers, one about bioenergetics, where you have a link to see some videos as well, or at least one video, and then another flyer with the overview of all my online courses, just so you have an idea what you can choose from. And then, indeed, I am in the process of finishing a translation to German of my practical guide. And when I was researching for this, I came across this beautiful poem in German about dowsing, and it's from 1835 by the writer and poet Joseph Freiherr von Eichendorff. So I'm going to read it to you in German. It's very short, and I made a little translation of it to English, so you can hear the English version as well. Wunschelrute. schläft ein Lied in allen Dingen, die da traumen fort und fort. Und die Welt hebt an zu singen. Trifft es nur das Zauberwort. Dowsing wrote, a song is hidden in all things. On and on it dreams until it's found. And the world rises and sings when the magic word comes round. So thank you for listening, and thank you, John, for inviting me. I'm happy that I am able to share a bit of my knowledge with more people in the world, because very few people know about this little precious instrument that can do so many things. So I hope that this has made a little difference.
That was fabulous in such little time. And of course, I'm delighted that we got a little bit of the poem at the end. So thank you, Anne-Marie. Hang on, we're going to try and have panel time. So thanks again. Beautiful. So Anne-Marie Demont there, and we'll try and get information of how to get hold of her, hopefully a bit of panel time. As usual, we're running over time, but with the quality of guests, that's not surprising. So thank you for holding on, and we'll just go with the flow with this. So far, we focus on the craft of dowsing for searching for water, minerals, bones, treasure. Anne-Marie was talking about diamonds. And observing dowsing and divining through my own time, I've also noticed that probably from about the late 60s, there seems to have been an explanation of dowsing into discovery of what I suppose you might say is the unseen, a sort of dowsing of what makes dowsing seem to work. And there's a common term for this today. There may be dowsing for energies of places and of the thin places, as our next guest may say. And folklore lovers, they may call the dowsing for the presence of the she, fairies, angels, or signatures of life that was present in the spaces that they're standing, the signatures of their presence over thousands of years previous. So even without dowsing rods, without dowsing tools, without a wire rod, crossing rods, pendulums, a storyteller or anyone can actually just sit in a space, contemplate, sense it, and suddenly be flooded with visions of stories, weather patterns, and interactions of people, of animals, and even of the flow of the unseen. And when this happens to me, I know it's not enough to just tell it as I feel it from the space I'm in. People want verifications. You know, where is the science? Where's the proof? Where are the facts? And they need these to cause these stories that we sense from a space to at least be semi-authenticated. So at this point, I first seek out place names. That's the first verification I look for, and find that's on that land, and also the origins of the land where I get the visions. Perhaps look up interpretations of archived ancient scripts, or simply seek out and reach out to local storytellers, see what they say about the spaces. Leducas.ie is a fabulous resource, a collection of local folklore stories. That's also helpful too. Now, some I feel may call these sensations and visions from the land as being spiritual or spiritual dowsing. But what is that? Now, one thing I've noticed since the late 60s is that a lot more during the from the 60s, but a lot more during the past 20 years of social networking is, let's get my picture up, is a surge of a genre we might call spiritual travelers, or maybe spiritual path pilgrims. Very different to the pilgrims visiting sites featured in their preferred holy book, like the Bible, Quran, etc. Now, these spiritual travelers, they might carry pendulums, dowsing rods, and they certainly carry divination cards, runes, or even the ogham sticks in a bag. We get people coming here and they're doing that. And all of these items they travel with, they use as tools to locate, connect, and attempt to interpret and storytell the sites that they visit. And some of these people may call these sites of stones, woodlands, sea, shores, wells, lochs, rivers, and even sites of geological movement. And call all these thin places. And there they are on pilgrimages, dowsing to explore the invisible realms, and even hold intents to discover entities that they feel are within those realms. So we got a wonderful final guest at last, and thank you for the patience there, Gary, to talk to you about this. And before we do, let's I better catch up on your comments. And thank you for holding on. As I say, we're running over time, so I'm delighted. And there's Anne-Marie is getting Common Sherry and Lynn there and Claire as well. Fantastic. Thank you all for your appreciations. And so it delayed long enough. I met Gary White with his lovely wives and forever wonder-seeking wife, Ellen. There's the two of them there. When they visited me as part of their research for writing their Powerful Places in Ireland book. And there you have it there. And Gary and Ellen, they've got a website of Power Places series, and I'm going to post that in a moment. But for this show, the interest is more on another website, the Pilgrim Process publishing website that they have. And for this, and this includes a book by Gary called The Dowsing Mind into Multidimensional Realms and Back. So I'm going to share a quick intro to this as an extraction from a blog post from Gary. Places of power like radio stations that broadcast a signal that we can pick up if we tune our intuitive senses to their frequency. The more the powerful place, the stronger the signal. And Gary also explains this needs to be a no conversation experience. It has to be in the quiet there. And there's some testimonials of Gary's book that I brought up. So that's a quote from that. And Gary's our final guest today, and this is a lovely treat for us, as I feel that what he's about to introduce you to feels like it's going to be a very vibrational sum of all that the Sunday session has included so far and been exploring, and right into the heart and soul and the foundation of dowsing. So Gary White, the co-author of Powerful Places book series and the author of The Dowsing Mind, and I'll get my look for my ear bits, and we will have Gary on in a few seconds. Boy, it's getting cold out here. Sorry, I'm sort of chattering away. It was beautifully warm when I came here. So anyway, we'll get on. And right, and now, and it's Gary White. Hooray! Good afternoon at last, Gary, and Ellen as well. Fantastic.
I'll move out of the way so you can be centered.
Oh, yeah. Right, Gary. The book is intrigued. I haven't had a chance to read as much as I would have liked to, but I'm familiar from when you visited us that your perception, and one of the memories I have is when we went down and into the glen, that ravine with the ivy and the trees, and you went into that, no conversation, the quiet, and you was pulling up a lot of sensation from that. So tell us a bit about your work and your approach to your book. It'd be fabulous.
Okay. Thank you, John. Yes, I came to dowsing fairly late in life when we started visiting ancient sites in Europe and in the British Isles. And I remember very well going with you, John, to Carrowcrory. We were writing this series of books. This is the Ireland book. You're mentioned in the Ireland book. When we started going to these ancient sites, I began to sense energies that I couldn't explain. The energies were powerful. And I wanted to know more about it. So we got in contact with Zig Lonergan, who is a famous dowser, and wrote the spiritual dowsing book, and went and studied dowsing with him. And it was through Sig and several other dowsers that I learned the craft of dowsing. Studied with Dominic Susani and Ferran Blasco and several others. But what I found was that we were tapping into something that our ancient ancestors simply knew. They had a need to find drinkable water. And a lot of the drinkable water is under the earth. And they developed a sense of being able to walk out on the land and find water and find where to dig. What we call that now is dowsing, but they simply had that as a sense. And we still have those senses. They lie dormant because we don't have the same need. I go out to the kitchen and turn the tap, and I have perfectly good water to drink. So we don't use these senses, but they're still there. And what we are doing, I think, with dowsing is...
I'm here.
I'm coming with the duvet.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to check on that.
John is going to cover it up.
I heard you were cold.
Yeah, I was.
Very cold out there.
Got my mic on.
What we do with dowsing is really just amplify. We just amplify the senses that we have. Now, I use rods. My rods are the like the ones you've seen on the screen. But beyond actually the rods, those are just tools.
Just mute.
That we have is, yes, John, if you could mute, that might help. Okay. Okay. The sense we have is simply amplified by whatever tools we choose to use. We have these basic senses, and they're still they're still there, and they can be brought out. So that is how I have used dowsing in visiting ancient sites all over Europe and the British Isles. I did write this book because I believe that what we are doing with dowsing is really tapping into what I call multidimensional realms that are not a part of this 3D reality that we live in, but are available to us and can be tapped into. So that is basically what I have to say about dowsing. You can use any tool that appeals to you. There are anything from the forked stick to really complicated devices, but all of these things are tapping into senses that we carry with us. They are intuitive. We call these things intuitive, but they're there, and whatever tools we use simply is amplifying those. So back to you, John. You're still muted, by the way.
Sorry about that. I was going on the mute and I was trying to get myself warm with it. But that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for Gary for that lovely introduction. We're going to have a panel time, I hope, and it was generous for you to hold on. And I trust all of you there have enjoyed our guests so far this afternoon. As I say, we're not finished. It's going to be over to you. Certainly ask some questions about anything talked about this afternoon. There's still plenty of you that have joined in, which is fabulous. So do join yourself in. Right. Yeah, questions. Everyone out there, YouTube, Facebook, even on Twitch. Those of you who've heard the guests, what questions do you have for the guests? Let's bring them all on. There's Jerry, there's Anne-Marie, and Gary's already there, and I'm there. And so fire away on that. We've covered quite a cross-section there from the introduction of the Irish diviners, and then going on to the map reading, obviously, of solving crime from a map, the use of the Y rods. They're looking for water, looking for metals, and the whole scientific verification, and then going into the depths of it there with Gary, the intimacy of it. And so let's see what you're coming up with. We'll take would love to get a couple of questions fired up from you there. Once you find water, can you estimate how deep the water source is? One question that's come up. That gets us started. So water. Let's get you onto that one, Jerry.
Yeah.
Once you find
yeah. There are a couple of methods of getting the depth of water. One is called the Bishop's Rule. It's when you find water, you pace out from that water, and when your rods move again, that's how far away you are from the center. That is actually the depth of the well of your well. And another method is you pendulum or rods. You ask the question: is it going by whatever meter? Is it 1 meter deep, 2 meter, 3, 4, 5 meters? You go right on, and then you get a reaction when you come to the depth of the well. It's
great.
Yeah.
And
of
Marie,
course, the other thing is actually just in that as well. It's the direction of flow. When you find the water, you ask for the direction of flow, and the rods will move on the direction of flow. Yeah. Okay.
And your approach on that, Anne-Marie, the depth of water.
Yeah, well, I think you could do the same thing as was just said. Just dowse with your antenna and ask, is it 0 to 10 meters, 10 to 20 meters, and then just fine tune so you have the depth. But I know there's another way of doing this. It has to do with the spiral signals of the water. Running water or even stagnant water would have several spiral signals spiraling out. So every energy signal, if it's a genuine one, will be a three-dimensional spiral. But I have forgotten. My teacher is actually listening here today, because I'm not very interested in actually knowing the depth of water. So I will need to get back to him and ask him. I think it has to do with where you find the last spiral signal. That will be your depth, but I'm not 100% sure. So I know, but you can use Lecher Antenna for it.
And you, Gary, your thoughts on that, finding depth of water?
Yes, it's certainly true that one can sense the depth of water, and when I've done it, I've used a similar method of is it 5 feet deep, 10 feet deep, 20 feet deep, and asking yes and no questions of a pendulum or the rods will give you very close to the actual depth. It's fairly simple because we have the sense of where that water is.
Right, I'm going to hold you on, Gary, for this next question from Sherry Murphy. Curious about where the strongest energy has been found. Have you got an answer for that one? That's a tough one for you.
Say the question again.
I'm curious. Sherry Murphy asks, I'm curious about where the strongest energy has been found from each of you. Where have you found the strongest energy?
Where have I found the strongest energy? I got the question now. Certainly in ancient sites, powerful places, cathedrals often will have a tremendous energy. Stone circles, the Karnak alignments have been mentioned here, and they are a major source of energy. Yes, we find them. I'm now living in the United States, and we find powerful places very close to us. Sedona, Arizona is a huge area of major vortexes. The powerful places are all over the earth. And a lot of them have been built upon in Europe and in the British Isles. Over here, the Native Americans didn't tend to build on these places, so they are very natural, and they're left in natural form, but they're everywhere all over the earth.
Indeed. And Anne-Marie, where's your strongest energy? Where have you found it?
Now, I would, of course, measure and quantify it as a scientist. Now, I have seen, I have measured that this is at Carrowcrory, that the energy after the sun has hit the interior of the cairn at the solstice, that the energy was tenfold what it was before. So that would be definitely a very strong energy. And also, I'm sorry to have to say this, but the places that have been left alone, which have very few visitors, so megalithic sites, there is a cairn in Sligo which has been, there was no possibility to visit it whatsoever because it was completely overgrown just to get there. And that energy was just amazing. So I think also it has to do, this is not very scientific of me of saying this, but I think you should approach these sites, these megalithic sites. They are there for a reason. They were built with so much attention and precision that these deserve to be approached with the deepest respect and gratitude. And if that is not happening, like Maeve's Cairn, I have found the energies to completely switch off at Maeve's Cairn at some point. And during lockdown last year, the energies have come on again. So people are asked not to walk on the cairns, to approach these sites with respect, but that is unfortunately not always the case. So yeah, megalithic sites which are not frequently visited or visited by people who have a lot of gratitude and respect for them.
What do you say about that, Jerry? Your again the question, your strongest energy you've discovered.
It would be well, personally, it would be to do with spirits, like house cleansing now. Getting when you know you've got trapped spirits in the house, and when you release them, or even on a site, but it usually has to do with a site where there has been death or burial, you know. But I've had an experience now where there was it was a child that had been killed in the house, and they had bought the house a long number of years ago, but it was prior to them. I got into about 1923 that there was some child killed in the house, and the spirit had been trapped in the house. And that was very, you know, that's you know, you get that kind of a buzzing that stays with you for a couple of days, and that's the personal one. I'm sure there are stronger energies, but that'd be my strongest, you know, when I'm dealing with that, you know, with the energies.
I'm going to hold on to you there, Jerry. I'm going to do one more question. And any advice for first-time dowsing? That's a perfect one for you, Jerry.
It's don't be afraid of it. It's a very natural thing to do, and it's just that you respect the equipment that's there. All you are, you're just a conduit for doing it. You're nothing special. But you get the reaction, and don't overdo it in the beginning. Just do it for a little while, and you have to be relaxed. Don't be stressed. Don't have alcohol in you. You know, be free to do it. And if you're getting anywhere tense, just leave it and come back to it later on. And it's a very natural thing. And don't give up on it if you don't get a reaction, or if it's a slow reaction. Your dowsing reactions will get stronger every time you do it.
Great. Anne-Marie, for first-time dowsers, what advice have you got?
Now, there are people who advise students to do 3 weeks of meditation to work with Lecher Antenna. But like I say, I have this mini course with all these short exercises, and in 2 hours, I see that in my courses where I have students physically present, it takes them about 2 hours to get going with the Lecher Antenna. Just one thing, I would also concur with what was just said. Of course, you have to be relaxed, and you have to empty your mind and focus on what it is that you want to measure. Don't think about the groceries you have to buy in the afternoon after the course. Just think like, I'm looking for running water here. My Lecher Antenna is set to running water, and it will work out. Just take my mini course, and it doesn't need any special skill. Just focus on the question
and Gary. Oh, sorry. Gary. And your thoughts on that? Someone starting out.
Yes. Work with an experienced dowser. I've worked with dozens of experienced dowsers, and it's a skill that anyone can develop because we have these senses. But I concur with the other panelists. You have to empty your mind. That's why I call the book The Dowsing Mind, because it is a particular mental process of emptying out this left brain mind that is constantly giving you thoughts. If you can still the thoughts and just let it be, the sense will come through.
Oh, fantastic! Sorry, I had I almost was cut off there. Sorry. Thanks very much for that. Well, thanks for you all. That's all we got on the panel. It just leaves me now to really engage on what's coming up in the next few weeks, and that was fabulous. Thank you all for your contributions. Absolutely fabulous there. Thank you for your questions. Hopefully anybody, the guests, can go on to the comments and they can carry on communicating with you, which would be fantastic if you can get to that. Right, it's and thank you for your comments. You've been very generous with that today, so that's lovely. Hard to get to everyone because it has been popular. Now, next week, 28th of February, we've got Ogham, the tree language story. You know that the Ogham I have split up into kind of 5 sections. So this is going to be the tree language story, and going into, I think you'll find it fascinating. I've covered it a bit on other Sunday sessions, is how do we start with language? How do we start with the trees? And I've repeated, the lovely thing with the Ogham is you read from the bottom upwards, you read from the ground upwards, you read through the branches of the trees. So we'll be going into that and other languages, and how people managed to find communication with each other when they didn't have language, and it brought together, and how that communication somehow developed into language. So I hope you'll find that fascinating. That's next week, 28th of February. And then 7th of March, we're going way into our tree time, because that's a transitioning one next week. Let's get the banners going. So the week after that, it's going to be the bare root tree planting. So we're going to get into the practical stuff next week. And so bare root tree planting, there's that. So we'll have guests for that. It's towards the end of the tree planting season here, but of course everybody leaves it to last minute. So I bet 90% of the bare root planting will be starting to happen next week. And one thing I didn't mention, the Ogham one I mentioned before, that's actually going to be our 50th online Sunday session. So that's a proud moment as well. That'll be the 50th. Then the 14th of March, we're going to have Labyrinth Gardens and Tree Sanctuary Creation. I'm always mentioning at the beginning here about the essential, how wonderful it is to have your own sanctuary. A tree sanctuary, I find, is wonderful. I'm in here, even though we haven't got any leaves yet. We won't have leaves in here much until end of March, beginning of April. But establishing your tree sanctuary or a labyrinth garden and creating, we'll be going hands-on, and we'll be going into your visions through doing that. That's 14th of March. And then I haven't got any pictures for that. Oh, yes, this is it. This is the tree labyrinth. And that's what it was 13 years ago. There's Claire doing bits on it. And you might be able to see the middle of it, which is where we are now, which is covered in this willow. So that's what it was like 13 years ago, this tree labyrinth here. It's fascinating. Then I know the week after that, it'll be our year, the 52nd. It'll be our year. No, it'll be the 53rd year's anniversary. It'll be the birthday of online Carrowcrory Sunday Sessions. And we'll be starting with what we started off with, Us and Trees. It's the beginning of the Irish Tree Week. So we'll be inclusive on that. And we're going to have some lovely guests, and with that, and with their tree products, with their dreams, and their experiences amongst the trees. So I haven't got that listed, but that's going to be the week after that, the 21st. Just have a quick look to see what you're saying, the latest comments, because lovely, interesting comments coming here. Christina, thank you very much for being on board. Glad you liked it. Joey, you've made a few comments. Thank you for the contributions. Mark Fish, great answers. Yeah, they were great, weren't they? The channel went very well. Mary, did any of you hear about a stray in the field? Even though you might know the field very well, can go astray. Very good. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for the guest from Sherry, which is lovely. And Anne-Marie, Regina Chant is congratulating Anne-Marie on that. And there's Claire, Credible Explorations, Gary, and the guests that you have. And wonderful. Just check through the guests that we got there and answer them if you can. So it's really thank you for our amazing guests today. Jerry Kremin, Dana Corby with the video, Dayman, Maria Delmotte, and Gary White. And I would like to ask that you keep on commenting here. This is archived immediately afterwards, and several of you do watch afterwards over several days, and I come back and answer the comments there with the archive. So please subscribe and click the bell icons. That's both on the YouTube and the Facebook. That will remind you of details of the following Sunday sessions. So thank you very much. Enjoy a safe week full of wonder, inspirations, all those lovely enchantments, especially if you go dowsing. So until next Sunday, play well, and it's bye-bye from me.